Hello, welcome to another episode of VAR on Air, a bi-weekly live stream program that is hosted by the Vietnamese American Roundtable that aims to cover reliable information important to and in service of our community in San Jose and Santa Clara County. You can find us every other Wednesday here on Facebook Live. I think today's a little special because we have special guests, and also Sundays, every other Sundays on 14:30 a.m. on KVVN radio station. Now, before we start and I get to our special guests, my dear friends, a couple announcements. We have COVID-19 updates and call to action. First one, the FDA has authorized the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11, and children can expect to begin to receive their first shot in early to mid-November. That's actually right now. Now, COVID-19 booster shots are also available in Santa Clara County for those who have received their second dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine at least 6 months ago, and Johnson & Johnson vaccine at least 2 months ago. And so I think that's actually a lot of my friends, a lot of us. So maybe I'll see you online. And then also for people who are 65 years and older and those over 50 with underlying medical conditions are strongly encouraged to get their shots. Now, with that said, this is the exciting piece, right? There's a lot going on, right? I want to say that this topic is so big that it will change the face of the map of San Jose, like literally. Now, I am no expert, but we have experts in the community, and we like to bring in our friends who knows this stuff, who can guide us to this conversation piece. So today's topic is redistricting San Jose, and our special guests today, our special guests are Tran and Christina Johnson. So I'm going to hand this off to Christina and take it away.
Hi, Anthony. Happy to join you all today. Thank you so much for having us to talk about redistricting. So, what is redistricting? What does that mean? Redistricting means drawing new boundaries to determine which San Jose or Santa Clara resident will be represented by which council member and county supervisor. So, why do we need to redraw lines? Communities change. People are born, they die, they move, communities grow and shrink. Areas which are once roughly the same or equal in size become unequal. So as communities change, they need to be updated to reflect those changes. So that is why we need to redraw the lines. How districts are drawn can be the difference between empowering and maximizing the voter's voice or minimizing and muting those voices. Redistricting has been used in the past to exclude communities from political power. So that's why it's important to fully participate and monitor the process, which is currently going on for both the city of San Jose and Santa Clara County, to ensure that voters have the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice that represents their values. So how often is redistricting happening? It happens every 10 years after the census data is released. The entire US population is counted in the census, and this data is used to draw the new maps to account for population change. Redistricting evens out the population between districts. So each of our voices can be heard in a fair and equitable manner. So that's why each district needs to have the same amount of people. So for the city of San Jose, some of their drawing criteria, there are 4, is that they need to make sure that the districts are nearly equal in population in establishing the boundaries of the district, and give consideration to natural boundaries, street lines and or city boundaries, geography, cohesiveness, I can never say this, but basically that it's continuous, right? That you're not making one district 2 here and then down further by district 4 there's another district 2. Like you can't do that. You need to make sure that there is some continuity involved in where you're placing these lines. And then they also need to take into account community of interest, which within each district. So the city of San Jose's redistricting process has been going on, and I know that there are a few maps that we are looking at right now. And I know that Santa Clara County's redistricting processing is occurring at the same time. And there are also 3 maps, I believe, that we're looking at right now. And I will pass this along to Tran to dive into the details more about this map and give us more info.
Hey, everybody. And thank you for the high-level review there, CJ. So yeah, today I'm going to speak to you about where or where the current conversation is regarding redistricting maps for the city of San Jose and for the county of Santa Clara. We are focusing our discussion today on how it impacts the Vietnamese community, but this information is publicly available so that all of our residents can look into the maps themselves and see how it impacts where they live and what they believe may be the impact on their quality of life. So today we're going to focus first on the city of San Jose. Now, let me say that this conversation is occurring at the tail end of the redistricting process. A lot of conversation and research and conversations have been going into how maps are drawn. And so this is important because, as CJ mentioned, we are looking at ways where each district can be created that keeps together communities of interest. That means neighborhoods and regions and areas that share common characteristics or share common lived experiences so that their voices don't get split up or divided in any way. And also to ensure that the districts are contiguous. Contiguous meaning that the lines are drawn between them. You don't have a district that's split up into 2 or 3 different sections. That they are all joined together to the extent that that any proposed district allows for that to occur. So let's just start first with the city of San Jose and some quick context here. The city of San Jose currently has 10 districts, and that's part of the reason why when lines are drawn, we have to try to preserve those districts. That's set in the city charter, and we do this as a way to ensure that our structure is maintained. And let me tell you, redistricting is not an easy process. Sometimes lines can be drawn in ways that seem arbitrary, but at some point, a line has to be drawn, and that meets all of the legal requirements that are set out in federal and state statutes. So, Philip, if you are ready, let's put on the maps. Thank you. All right, so focusing first on the city of San Jose, there are currently 2 maps that have received the most attention in the redistricting process. I phrase it that way because there are a lot of different maps that are formally under consideration. However, going through all maps that have been proposed and are formally, I guess, on the table can be something that's very hard to manage. So we're going to focus on the 2 maps that have actually received the most attention and have been received the most comments. The first map that you see on the screen now is called the Unity map. It was actually created within a set of organizations, progressive organizations, community-based organizations who came together with a stated goal of ensuring that voices from communities of color are not lost and can be magnified in the redistricting process. If you look at the maps here, what is very helpful about this map is that there is an overlay. The colors on the map represent where the original districts are, where our current district lines lay. The bolded dark lines tell you where the proposed new boundaries are going to be. Now, this is helpful for us because we can actually zoom in and see down to their nuanced level where the lines have been and where the proposed lines will go. Now, in terms of how this impacts the Vietnamese community, 2010 census data showed that the vast majority of Vietnamese families live in the eastern half of Santa Clara County. So what we're really talking about is the dense population of Vietnamese families living in Milpitas, Berryessa, not so dense in Alum Rock, but definitely a lot more dense as we look at District 7 and Evergreen area, all the way down until we get into this portion of District 2, South San Jose. So Vietnamese families are very dense as we look at the eastern half of the city. We thin out a little bit in Alum Rock, but generally speaking, the eastern half of San Jose is where the Vietnamese population tends to be the most dense and where most families reside. And as you can see here, looking at the changes to District 4, there actually isn't much. There's a little bit of a carve out here that gets moved into a new District 3, but 5, 8, and 7 remain pretty much the same. There aren't much changes here. In District 2, there are going to be dramatic changes to the lines. However, the geographic region around Edendale, running down into here around the 85 and the 101, it stays intact. District 2, though, changes in the sense that rather than being a northwest to southeast directional district, it actually spins off a little bit more west. And then Highway 85 here marks the north-south boundary between the new District 10 and the new District 2. So in terms of whether or not Vietnamese communities are divided and separated based on the new proposals under the unity map, those changes don't really seem apparent. District 5, the core part of District 4, where Vietnamese families reside, and District 2 are preserved, along with the borders for 7 and 8. There are slight changes, but it's not dramatic. If you look in the unity map, the most dramatic changes occur around the airport area of San Jose and West San Jose. This is the area where Google developments will come and clearly have a large impact on how our city, on the residences and the neighborhoods and the districts, the business districts in Western San Jose. So again, the most dramatic changes will be District 3, which just traditionally represented downtown, but for purposes of the unity map, shifts north, and District 6, which also has to shift north. One point about redistricting, San Jose has grown a lot since 2010. And because of that, it is quite impossible to try to maintain all districts in the exact same lines that they have. Some changes have to be incorporated so that all the districts become comparable in terms of size and number of residents. So the most dramatic changes again here, you'll see them on the west side of the city. District 3 moves northward. District 6 moves northward. District 9 moves northward. And then if you look at Districts 2 and 10, there's a bit of a change here where Highway 85 becomes the big new border that separates District 2 and District 10. Now, this is one map, and this is what's been called the unity map. Let's go over to a second set of maps that are currently called the D maps. They are called the D maps because that's the label that's been assigned to them by the consultants who are working with the Redistricting Commission. Now, there are 2 D maps. As you can see, the D maps do try to preserve the directions of the original districts. For example, if you look at District 2, it maintains the northwest to southeast trajectory. Highway 85 here, Highway 85 does not change to create the new border. It is still kind of both sides of the 85 can fall in District 2, and District 10 is also in a sense preserved compared to the original maps that we have. However, District 7 does move northward, taking more of the Spartan Keys area, which has traditionally been part of District 3. District 8 moves northward. District 5 moves northward as well. Under the consultant maps, the shape of the original council districts are attempted to be preserved, but there has to be a shifting. And if you look at the D2 map, it's not that much different. It really is just a slight shift, a slight shift in the lines for D6 and D3 and 9. So if you look here at 9, and between 3 and 9, 3, 6, and 9, those lines shift just a touch, right? So there's a big key difference between the unity map and what's proposed as the D maps. The unity map tries to preserve the eastern half of the city, the districts in the eastern half of the city as much as possible, with changes that have to happen in District 4, and the new directional changes to separate Districts 2 and 10. Under the D map, the original map lines all shift, but there is an effort to try to preserve them in in terms of what we've had so far. Now let's shift over and focus to the county maps. In the county maps, there are 3 maps that are currently currently been proposed to the Board of Supervisors. This is our map as it currently exists. You'll see that District 2 covers downtown and heads a little bit into the east side. District 3 stretches from Sunnyvale, runs over Santa Clara to include Milpitas and parts Evergreen. District 1 covers South San Jose, but also a lot of the cities in the south: Gilroy, Morgan Hill, Los Gatos, and Monte Sereno. District 4 covers the western part of San Jose, a bit there, along with Campbell and Santa Clara. District 5 covers a lot more of the peninsula cities, Palo Alto, all the way down to Saratoga. This is the map that we currently have. And again, if we focus on impact to the Vietnamese community, remember that Vietnamese families reside mostly in Milpitas, down into the eastern half of San Jose, and to the southern part of San Jose. If you look at where Vietnamese families reside now, for the most part, it is in District 3 and in District 2. There are 3 maps under consideration. They've all been assigned colors. This is, I believe, called the purple map. The purple map does preserve the map as we currently exist, but does make the adjustments for population growth. If you look at District 2, it does extend a lot further east now, incorporating a lot more of Alum Rock. Incorporating a lot more of Alum Rock and stretching a little bit too into what has been part of District 3. However, District 1 though District 1 is also shifts northward. It actually takes in the Silver Creek area, which has traditionally been part of District 4. District 3. So if we compare that to the old map, you'll see that District 3 shrinks, District 1 grows, and District 2 spreads a little bit more to the east. This is again called the yellow map. The purple map. The yellow map follows the same guidelines. It does try to preserve the shapes that we have currently, but District 2 is going to look a lot different. It does stretch a little bit more into the Silver Creek area. District 3 still shrinks, and 5 and 4 stay the same. The last map that's been forwarded to the Board of Supervisors is still called the Unity Map. This is the same organization that has pressed for the new district lines in San Jose. And they focus, again, on making sure that voices of communities of color are preserved and strengthened to the extent that we can. So there's dramatic lines here look different, but District 3 still covers the same areas that it does before, but District 1 stretches a lot more north. There we go. It includes Silver Creek. Silver Creek is basically removed from District 3, moved to District 1, and it covers a little bit more of the southern end as well. Now, it's very important for us to see why these maps are important, right? I mean, look, we've just looked at 5 different maps, and there's a big question of why is all this important? So, Phil, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. All right. We just went through 5 different maps. And these do affect the Vietnamese community because it does set out or create the borders that help us define who represents us. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to CJ to talk about the importance of these maps, and then we'll take questions.
Yes, thank you, Hui. And thank you so much for going into details about those maps. I think our community has important things to consider right now. The way that these boundaries are drawn is going to affect how we champion our issues because it affects who we elect as our representative, right? We want an elected representative that represents our interests. Different communities have different needs and priorities. So, for example, how this can impact us is funding priorities. When we elect a representative, we're going to want to make sure that they're fighting for the resources that our community needs. When it comes to making that budget, right? Like we want to make sure that money goes to schools, money goes to certain services that our district needs. So it's really important that we're able to get someone into that seat who represents what our community needs. And then it's also important to know about the community boundaries. Where does our community start and where does it end? Goes back to what our needs are. Because our needs might be very different from, the supervisoral district 4 versus supervisoral district 2. So that's why it's important to be part of this process and to follow it. And I know that these commissions are kind of wrapping up their work right now and they only have, I think, 1 or 2 meetings left. Hui, do you know when's the last time these commissions are meeting so that people can still get involved in the process?
Sure. So the county process is actually wrapped up already, and they're at the last step in the process. The Board of Supervisors will vote on which map to adopt at its meeting on, I believe that meeting is set on next week, November 16th. The city of San Jose, I believe, is just wrapped up the November 4th meeting. I believe they may have one more before it goes before the city council. The city council has a deadline of adopting a new map, by December 14th. Now, this is key though to understand about the adoption of these maps. When they are adopted at the end of this year, that means that they will be in effect for next year, and they have an impact on the 2022 elections. So if you haven't started paying attention to the 2022 elections yet, don't worry, there's a reason for that. A lot of things can change. However, once those new maps are adopted and released, it's going to be interesting to see how this impacts people who are interested in running for the respective county seats and the respective city seats.
So I know that Reed Hillville, sorry, Anthony, airport has been a really big issue for the community, especially in East Side. So how would this issue be impacted by redistricting?
Well, Reed Hillview, there's a recent report was released by Santa Clara County talking about how the small planes that fly in and out of Reed Hillview have actually led to years of lead poisoning for the neighborhoods and the families that live just to the east and south of the airport. Now, this has been a long-standing debate, though. Whether Reed Hillview should remain has been debated for a decade. And a lot of the questions have really centered around what's the best use of the land under Reed Hillview. A lot of the discussion has really centered on people who enjoy flying, who take flights, and like to use Reed Hillview as an opportunity to learn how to fly and to get into aviation. So those pilots, though, tend not to live in the east side. They tend not to live around where Reed Hillview has impacted those families. Where those families have had an impact, there's actually debate about whether they actually want to close Reed Hillview and change the use of the land as well. Some folks are concerned that, why would we build on land that has some chemical concerns, while others recognize that we're in a housing crisis and Reed Hillview's current use just doesn't help enough people, doesn't support enough people. So who represents the areas around Reed Hillview will have a major impact on how Reed Hillview moves forward. If you look at it right now, this county has made a strong statement in saying that we should close down Reed Hillview. But if the lines change where Reed Hillview is now moved more southward, right, that could very much change, because there's another airport in San Martin that aviators can use, but it is a much larger inconvenience for them to go that far south.
So I want to summarize this a little bit, because this is so new to me. So what I'm hearing is that with the new lines that are being drawn, while there may be not a drastic change, we may, as the Venus community, may have a voice or not have a voice, whether they have something as toxic as the land on Reed Hillview poisoning our community or not. And if we don't pay attention to what maps being drawn, that means we're not going to be paying attention to how much power we're given to advocate for ourselves. Therefore, we might be at a disadvantage. So is that what I'm hearing? It's really important for us to pay attention to this. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing to keep in mind here, right, is that if we look at just the city of San Jose, the Asian American population, the API population, actually makes up 1/3 of the city. Despite the fact that API population in San Jose takes up 1/3 of the population, we actually have 0 members serving on the San Jose City Council. We have 0 members who actually were part of the redistricting commission, right? So part of that is the fact that oftentimes communities of color have to focus on going to work, taking care of the family, making sure the kids are provided for, and those opportunities just don't exist, at least outside of the formal opportunity that is presented that says, hey, if you're free, come and apply, right? But we also have to make sure that we create opportunities for API members of the API community to get into the decision-making process, right? If API voices are clustered, for example, all in one massive district, then it's crabs in a bucket. We're all basically have to fight for each other for one guaranteed seat. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to have one guaranteed seat. But if there's an opportunity for us to expand that and have, for example, 3 seats out of 10, so that we're actually closer aligned to our population, then these are the kind of opportunities that we miss out on if we don't get involved in the conversation and then in the redistricting process.
Ooh, so what I'm hearing then, there are 10 seats currently. None of them are APIs, let alone Vietnamese American, right? And so this is a pivotal moment for us to like, hey, we need to pay attention to the maps, pay attention to their issues, and you know what? Let's get some of our Asian Americans, Vietnamese American folks into leadership roles so that we can be advocated for.
Absolutely. And also, this is a once in a decade process. We don't get another chance at this for 10 more years.
Okay. So is there a chance like where we can like send people like before the city council talk about it? Like, is there a public forum for that? Do we know? Even just for a quick moment, or can we send emails?
The most pressing or the first opportunity to do this is going to be the county Board of Supervisors meeting on November 16th. And this is going to be a big moment because this is when the Board of Supervisors will formally make a decision about which map to adopt. And remember that there are 3 maps right now under consideration. It's the purple map, the yellow map, and the EE2 map. Don't ask me about the names. Sometimes they just don't make sense. But that's the names that we have. So for those who are interested, the county Board of Supervisors makes their final decision on November 16th. And that'll be important for us to have. If you have thoughts about how this might impact your family, call in, send an email, and make sure that your voice is heard.
And then the day after is going to be the last meeting for the City of San Jose's Redistricting Commission before they vote on which map to send to the council.
So this is exciting. So I think maybe our obligation is that through our network, at least Facebook, we'll get that information out because it's happening next week. So this was recorded a week before. And then there's so much information. I think we're going to try to like make sure we get some of these sound bites out for everybody else. At the same time, can I also say thank you to you both because I know how busy you are. And this is actually a call out to all our people in the community. It's like, hey, we need more people like you out there to, you know, just like show up and just like listen to advocate for us, right? Because I feel like I've seen CJ and we do a lot of work. So if you're a listener in our community, right, guess what? This is the time to step up and like voice. Who knows? You might be our next city council member. I would say president, but that's probably for Christina. She's the next president of the United States.
There you go. Hey, CJ can do it. Breaking barriers.
Okay. So we're hitting the time boundary. I want to make sure we are within the time. Is there any one last one last statement, phrase, or one last takeaway that we should all be aware of from each of you?
For me, VAR will be holding a first ever community empowerment symposium this Saturday, running from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Part of the conversation is going to be redistricting, the other part's charter review. But at a higher level, we're going to be talking about how we ensure that Vietnamese voices are not left out of the decision-making process, because we live in San Jose, we make up 10% of the population, and we have to make sure that our needs are met by the city as well. So for more information, please visit VAR's website. Look at this, check out our symposium information, register, and come on out. Hey, we'll feed you.
Ooh, yes, food is always a great motivator. Mine is just get involved in the process. Get involved now. You know, for the Charter Review Commission, we have Vietnamese translation. So you can bring your mama and your grandma and your grandpa and like have a conversation with them about what's in the charter. What are the recommendations we're looking at? And for the maps, you know, call in, comment, email. Like, this is such a simple way to be involved in the civic process for something that's going to impact us for the next decade. You know, it really goes down to who's going to be representing us. And we want to make sure that person aligns with our values and what our needs in our community are.
Oh, man. Thank you both for that. Oh, and I'm going to add on my little takeaway. Because if you're going to the symposium and you bring you're like, you know, I don't get along with my grandparents or my parents, guess what? There's a breakout session for you a chance to listen to each other as well. How do we know that? because I helped write some of that program, right? And you get to meet our new program manager as well. He'll be facilitating that. With that, like, do you know who it is? Come on Saturday and find out who's our new staff. So with that said, thank you so much for being with us, Christina and Hui. I really appreciate you taking time to do this. I know it's always a challenge for us to find time, but your commitment to the community is so appreciated. So thank you both so much.
Appreciate you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony.
Welcome. All right, y'all. With that said, y'all have a wonderful evening, rest of the week. See a lot of y'all on Saturday at the symposium, whether it's in person or virtual. And you know what? Let's make this the year of for San Jose Vietnamese American in Santa Clara County. All right, let's make it our year.
Yes, yes.
I'll see y'all around.